Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. We turn our attention to oil and energy, and joining us on the program right now, a great honor to visit with the Secretary of Energy, Dan Brouillette, here on the Chad Hasty Show. Mr. Secretary, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Chad. How are you? I'm doing great.
Well, great. Glad to visit with you today. We got a lot of people out in this part of the world, as you would imagine, that pay attention to the oil prices. And we're seeing oil prices continue to dip and continue to be pretty volatile. Talk about some steps that you're going to be taking and that the administration is taking, hopefully to deal with some of this.
Sure, Chad. Happy to do it. Last Friday, the president directed me to begin the purchase of oil, U.S.-produced oil, I should say, to help refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which is stored down in parts of Texas and Louisiana down along the border. So today we're announcing that we're going to market and we're going to begin the process of purchasing 30 million barrels. It's going to be limited to U.S. producers only, and this effort is to help refill the SPRO, as I mentioned earlier. And in our view, in the administration's view, we think it sends a very strong signal to the U.S. energy industry that we believe in it. We believe that this is an important industry for our national economy. And much like a corporation buys back its stock from time to time to indicate to other investors that it believes in its operations, we're going to do the same thing with U.S. energy.
What kind of impact do you believe and others believe this may have on U.S. oil?
Well, we think, we're going to take the first step first, and that is we want to store the oil in the reserve for a rainy day. Much like a household does, you put a little bit aside for that rainy day. Now's a great time to do exactly that, to buy this oil while it's a little bit depressed in the marketplace. We're going to buy some up, and we're going to save it for a rainy day for the future. What impact it has on the oil pricing overall is a little unclear, because it's driven not only by supply, it's driven by demand, as you know. So we have to get past this coronavirus pandemic that we're dealing with. Then we'll have a little better picture on what the demand curve looks like. And at that point, I think you'll start to see a little bit more clarity, if you will, with regard to the overall market for oil.
How much, let's say our oil producers down in the Midland, Odessa area, they're listening and they're taking a look at the market right now. How much of the prices are being impacted by coronavirus, and how much of it is also Saudi Arabia and Russia?
Well, I think it's a mixture of both. As I mentioned, demand is going down as well as a result of this virus. People are, following the CDC guidelines and doing, the social distancing that we read about, as well as, in some cases just quarantining themselves. So we're watching demand go away slightly during this period, but we can't ignore what's happening overseas and the price war, the supply war that's been going on between Saudi Arabia and Russia. We're following that very closely. We're talking to our counterparts there, trying to get them to come back to the table and work out whatever agreement they may choose to work out so that we can begin to stabilize, again, not only the oil markets, but the world economy writ large.
When it comes to, I was looking at your Twitter account yesterday, and obviously coronavirus has been the big news over the last few weeks. Your office and I guess some of the labs that y'all have are helping. It's an all hands on deck, isn't it?
It is indeed. It's the president's directed us to conduct this with a whole of government approach, and that's exactly what we're doing. So at the U.S. Department of Energy, it's not well known, but we do own the two fastest supercomputers in the world. One is at Oak Ridge. We have another up at Argonne, and they are being used to help identify some of the patterns that we see between these types of viruses. For instance, at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, they were able to quickly identify the protein strains and analyze them using algorithms and artificial intelligence, and then running them through our supercomputers to suggest that there may be as many as 4 off-the-shelf drugs that have a positive impact on this virus. So it's that type of capability that we have here at Energy, and it's a little bit off the beaten path, but we are stepping right into this fight and helping our colleagues at CDC as well as the other government agencies who are on point for this issue.
Visiting with the Secretary of Energy, Dan Brouillette, here on the Chad Hasty Show. The big headline, obviously, at the direction of President Trump, Energy Department will fill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to its maximum capacity by purchasing 77 million barrels of American-made crude, starting with an initial 30 million barrels, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. Going to start today. We'll be working with our colleagues in Congress. We've gotten great support from the Texas senators, Senator Cruz, Senator Cornyn, and others who are very supportive of this effort, and we're going to keep marching forward.
Mr. Secretary, appreciate your time today, and hopefully we'll get to visit with you again for better terms and for better reasons in the future.
I would love to do that, Chad.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you very much.
Take care.
That's Secretary of Energy Dan Brouillette here on the Chad Hasty Show. News Talk KFYO.